science.
Hello, welcome to episode 4 of Nutrition Tips with J-Lo. Today I'm going to continue the little macronutrient mini-series, talk about everyone's favorite nutrient of all time, protein.
Awesome, I love protein.
I know you love protein. I love protein too.
Yeah, protein rocks.
And kind of try to talk about it simply, concisely, dispel some of the myths, and explain why it's important for cross-country skiing, and hopefully kind of help you understand it a little bit better. So let's jump straight in. What's the deal with protein? So like carbohydrates and fat, protein is one of the 3 main macronutrients, and it's amazing. It literally makes the world go round for all living things. It's a super important part of so many different processes in the body, keeps the immune system functioning properly, makes DNA, and is just essential for building new body tissues like muscle, which is really important, of course, for athletic performance. Because exercise performance across all sports requires strong and powerful muscles, protein is obviously very important, and actually the biggest proportion of protein in our body is stored in our muscular system, and so it makes sense that we need to consider it and have it be an important part of our kind of daily eating. Okay, so proteins are made up of amino acids, which are the simplest form of protein. You can kind of think of these as the bricks of the protein house, and when we eat food, our body digests the protein in that food into these amino acids to be kind of reformulated into different proteins used throughout the body to help repair muscle tissue, to making new hemoglobin in our blood to transport oxygen. And while amino acids and proteins can be used as a fuel source, they're actually kind of a secondary fuel source compared to carbohydrates and fat, and play more of a kind of behind-the-scenes support role for immune system function and all these other like kind of bodily processes that we don't really think about as much. And with cross-country skiing, we're in this really unique sport where we have this kind of deadly combo of endurance, engines with full body strength and power, which is why it's so freaking hard and why we have to train so hard. We think about protein, I think most people think about protein as being important for, muscle strength, power, building muscle. You might associate protein with bodybuilders like Arnold or myself even, but the reality is that protein is super important for endurance athletes as well, as I'll get into. And I would actually argue that cross-country skiers have some of the highest protein requirements of any athlete in the endurance kingdom for this reason. And this is because on top of having a really big endurance aerobic capacity, we also have to have, like I said, this full body strength in our core and our upper body to double pull really strongly and efficiently and ski really fast in a sprint, for example. Without boring you with a physiology lesson, the kind of main adaptation that happens when we go out for a distance run or ski or go do some hard intervals is the body triggers and signals itself to make more mitochondria. This is hallmark, and if you remember from biology class, mitochondria, power plant of the cell, this is where the kind of final stage of carbohydrate and fat metabolism happens to power things like this.
Dubbelt Norge, Stenset och Fall med fästet, men ändå så har ju tvåa idag. Falla vinner och Jonna Sundling blir tvåa i säsongen.
And having more kind of more bigger mitochondria in our muscles equals bigger aerobic capacity and the ability to ski faster, longer, harder, etc. And in order to build more of these mitochondria, we need protein, because mitochondria is actually a protein itself. And so, when we eat protein, it's after a strength session, for example, our body sends that protein to repair those muscles that we just kind of broke down. With endurance training, actually protein gets more used to actually build more of these mitochondria, which, like I said, is why we get faster and stronger over time. As a result, endurance athletes definitely require more protein than the average person, and add on to that, you guys are all still growing and developing, and so it needs to be something to consider to continue to grow and progress in your athletic and life aspirations. Okay, so how much do we need? Where should we get it? First and foremost, and probably most importantly, we can actually meet all of our protein needs by eating real foods, eating a variety of whole kind of balanced foods and meals throughout the entire day. And it's the most important thing is eating enough to fuel our energy and kind of life demands. And so before you reach for that, overpriced tub of protein powder at the store, consider just eating real foods and kind of balancing out your diet a little bit more. And I know that this is easier said than done, to eat enough to fuel, to eat the right foods. And so if you're struggling with this, it's different for every person. Come talk to me, and we can kind of work through some of those concerns. With that being said, though, there are kind of three main considerations when talking about protein needs for athletes: type, timing, and total. So type, of course, there's many different kinds of protein sources. Essentially all living things, whether it's an animal or a plant, has protein within it. And so this is why variety is the spice of life. We want to balance all of these different foods throughout the day. So of course, if we're eating animal products, animal sources of protein, things like lean meats, roasted chicken, seafood, kind of leaner cuts of steak, of course, dairy products, kind of like Greek yogurt or skyr, Icelandic yogurt, that are super high in protein, eggs, things like that. Of course, the plant kingdom, very rich in protein, contrary to popular belief, but things like tofu, tempeh, lentils, beans, nuts and seeds, things like that. And whether you're vegan or vegetarian or omnivorous, doesn't matter. The focus here is quality over quantity, variety, balance, and yes, you can get all of the protein you need from a totally plant-based diet. Just requires a bit more planning, a bit more kind of awareness and focus, and eating probably more food than you think. So yeah, I mean, it's been 6 years plus for me, and I haven't wasted away yet, so trust me on that. Okay, so timing and total. For athletes, it's obviously very important to have quality protein sources, but it's also really important to have enough throughout the day and eating it at the right times. And really the kind of key thing is we don't need to track it. We don't need to obsess over the numbers. Really for you guys, the main thing is eating, good protein source at every meal, 3 to 4 times a day. And particularly after training, especially after hard training sessions, whether it's a strength workout, hard intervals, or a big day, in the mountains, distance running or skiing or something, we have to just kind of get that hit of protein multiple times throughout the day in a good, healthy serving. How much you actually need depends on a lot of factors: your age, your height, weight, your specific training kind of needs and requirements. And so it's really dependent on a lot of different things, but really, like I said, all you need to know is just getting a good source of it multiple times a day, and probably kind of more 3 to 4 times a day, rather than just eating, a bunch of eggs at breakfast, then eating nothing until after training. You have to have it consistently throughout the day. Okay, so some quick examples here of just some kind of meals and food ideas, because I know this can feel abstract. Breakfast could be a couple slices of toast with a couple of eggs and, maybe some jam and peanut butter on there, or a big bowl of granola or muesli or oatmeal with some Greek yogurt. Lunch could be a wrap or a sandwich with tofu or chicken, some beans and greens and veggies. Post-training recovery meal could be a smoothie bowl with bananas and berries and some soy milk or yogurt, with some spinach, greens in there. Top that with some granola, super good. And so obviously we're training kind of later in the day right now, and so that recovery meal is potentially going to be dinner. So you want to make sure you have a good protein source, good substantial meal at that at that time. And so some things like pasta with chicken sausage and vegetables, or fish tacos with beans and brown rice, burrito bowls. Just really focus on a good, healthy source of protein at each meal. Okay, so to summarize here, the point of all of this is that yes, protein is important for you as an athlete and as a human being, but that we don't need to obsess over it. We don't need to track it. We don't need to think about it too much. We don't need to chug protein powder all day. Really, it's about focusing on good quality, variety in each of our meals throughout the day, not getting behind later in the day, and really just learning how to cook, learning how to put together meals. I think if I could offer one piece of advice for you as young athletes, is to take some take a role in your food choices and learn how to make really simple and basic but nourishing and delicious meals. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be really simple. But we're all spending a little bit more time at home right now. Also, your training is kind of increasing. We're training harder. And so your protein needs are going to probably go up a little bit. And so by getting involved in that process, learning how to make really good meals is going to be so important, and I think is a hallmark characteristic of any successful athlete. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful. Let me know if you have questions. Thanks for watching, and until next time.
It's showtime.